be popular or to make friends. If anything, it's going to possibly ostracize us more, depending on the kind of people that we've hung around with before. But yeah, it's just one of those things that it's very hard to navigate, and I think a lot of society doesn't actually recognize the kinds of hoops we seem to have to jump through. You know, I mean, have you found personally that, you know, people expect you to jump through certain hoops purely because you have this worldview?
I'm not sure what you mean by jump through certain hoops.
Well, like fit onto a certain picture of having some sort of like credentials or respectability. Like, you know, it happens a lot to me when I try to engage people in a conversation about the idea of technological unemployment, and more or less 9 times out of 10, the first question out of their mouths is, "Have you got a job?" And you know, that's a loaded question in and of itself. And so I would essentially answer that with, okay, well, first of all, to show me that question is even relevant to anything, and would it suddenly make my argument valid if I did say I have a job, and would it suddenly make it invalid if I said I didn't have a job? I mean, why are you using this as a barometer? How is it relevant? And I don't receive any answer for that kind of thing, because people have so many, they erect so many blockades to reason, and it's very socially divisive.
I guess that's why with people who I think would be combative to the information, I wouldn't challenge them in that. I would try to find the common ground, I guess. But two, I mean, another way that I have really positive stories about activism, like I don't have a lot of stories where someone was really combative and then all of a sudden they say, "Oh my gosh, Eureka, I just realized that you're right and I'm wrong." That's never happened. I wish I had a story like that, but it doesn't happen because of the nature of debate. Debate is not really conversation. It's a whole other, it's a game in and of itself where both players are trying to win their own side and prove the other person wrong. So there's some ways in which some people a lot of the people that I've talked to who do street activism I would hear some people that were frustrated about the results of their street activism. I would say, well, how are you engaging people? And they would be engaging people in a style of debate. And I'm thinking, well, you've already set up your outcome at the beginning. The outcome from a debate style communication is that you're going to defend your side and they're going to defend their side. It's sort of like protesting something, or yelling at buildings. And then everybody acts surprised when, oh, here come the police with riot gear and tear gas. Did it ever occur to you that that's the role that you set up? When you create a certain thing where you're creating a certain scenario, that's the counter scenario. We're role playing at this point, which is why, you know, that's always going to be the outcome of that exchange. It's not going to ever be that the police arrive on the scene and they hear the messages of the protesters and they all just drop their weapons and join in. Like, that doesn't happen because of the way that the role play is set up. I mean, it would be miraculous if it did. And I do think there have been instances where after long periods of time of stress with the two sides of the establishment and a people who are, you know, fighting for a revolution, that sometimes there's such a shame at that point in one side or the other that they acquiesce. But initially, when you're setting that up, it's not a good strategy for communication because it's very specific role play. But that's where what I like to do is find environments where people are already gravitating to the material and meeting them where they are, so that actually my success rate, so to speak, of connecting with people and having them go, "Oh, wow, thank you for doing what you're doing," is really high, because I don't just approach anyone on the street and tell them about the movement and wait for them to reject what I'm talking about. What I do is I meet people where they're already concerned about something. You know, whether it's a technology event, an environmental event, a socially conscious, human rights event. Even when the movie Capitalism, a Love Story played, Michael Moore's event, I waited outside of theaters and people were ripe for, give me what you got on any kind of solution to this. People tried to pay me for Zeitgeist Addendum, and I'm like, no, it's free. And I had somebody say, no, I want to pay you for this because I'm so happy to have someone that's here that's trying to provide a solution. They didn't even know what it was. They were so fired up from the material they just saw. Wow. That there was a need, and then when they exited the theater, I was there, and it's like they were looking for me. Like, where is the person with the pitch of solutions? So that's something that I did. So the response was overwhelmingly positive, but it's because of where I positioned myself. So I think that's my recommendation to activists. If you feel frustrated, is to look at where you're going. Are you just approaching people at your grocery store in the parking lot and hoping to have somebody to connect with you? Just understand you're approaching people in the grocery store parking lot. And, for most people, that's an awkward kind of, somebody wants my money, somebody is trying to sell me something, somebody wants to manipulate me. I mean, it's there are all sorts of things set up by the environment that are working against you. So I say increase your odds from the very environment you position yourself in for these communications, and then have it just be about asking questions,
Yeah.
And it could even be sometimes, have you seen the Zeitgeist movies? Or when I've been someplace where there's a Zeitgeist sign and I see they're looking at it, and there I could see the question in their mind is, oh, what is that? Is it a German movement? Is it, what is that exactly? I might ask them if they've heard or seen, any of the films. And then from there, I would just say, well, we're kind of a group that believes that we have the current resources and technology right now to solve a lot of the world's problems. If we got together and decided we wanted to do that, and to do so even outside of the monetary system, not a barter system, but an access system. And a lot of people are intrigued by that. Or if I get them to agree on just, would you agree that we have enough food on the planet to feed everybody on planet Earth? Most people will say, when they think about it, well, yeah, I think we could do that feasibly. And they will admit that it's politics and people that get in the way of that.
People do recognize that, politics and all that sort of thing, that is part of the problem. However, it's sort of blocked by the establishment indoctrination that's already been imposed upon them, that you alluded to earlier, that they think as long as we get the ethical politician to power, then that's what's going to solve it. I mean, there was a video that I rewatched this morning called Why Ron Paul Did Not Win the Florida Primary. And it was a guy who basically just goes up and down the beach, interviewing people, asking them who they're going to vote for, why,
right,
and what's their favourite policy of theirs, and just hearing just the regurgitation of buzzwords, and it seems like we're sometimes, especially with some of the conversations that I have, it sometimes seems that I'm not even having a conversation with a person. I almost like asking them sometimes, are these opinions even yours? Did you ever think about this idea before you adopted it? What does it mean to you? How does this idea benefit you? Does it benefit your family? Does it comport with reality? And, it's just strange to sort of engage that level of mind lock.
I know what you mean. There's a young journalist, I think he's based in New York, but Luke Rudkowski. I don't know if you've seen any of his videos online, but let's see. I'm trying to see if I can find his channel, but he has done these amazing videos, like especially before the election that we just had here in the States with Obama and Romney. And what he did is he would approach people on the street, and he would tell them sort of what the current he would tell them what Romney wants to do. And he would list all the things that Obama, these would be Obama supporters that he was approaching. And he would say, these are things that Mitt Romney wants to do. And he would start to list things that Obama's already done. So past tense. And he would get their reactions on camera of like, oh, that would be horrible. Oh, we'd be, that would be too controlling, or I think that sounds like a dictatorship, or, and what's interesting is they don't even know that these things have happened past tense and with the person that they're going to vote for. So he really sets this up, and then at the end, of course, he has to tell them, I admit, I lied, I switched things around on you. And you get to see that cognitive dissonance where some of them will say, wow, I need to rethink things then because I didn't know that. And others of them immediately are like, well, that can't possibly be true. Like you just even see it in their physiology. Like they couldn't even handle that being a truth. Because it doesn't fit with their worldview and how they view the candidates. And he does it, he does a lot of, clever interviews like that. So I like his style. Of course, he's very politically focused, but I sort of think we could easily, start to, challenge people in that way in the movement of, maybe opening their minds. And, what if we talked about, maybe we could do interviews on the street. So Obama was talking about doing this thing where, instead of just voting, that we use the scientific method to come up with solutions for like poverty and to just see if they say, oh, that sounds like a great idea, just because it's in the framework of, oh well, Obama wants to do this, or I think for some people that would be the way that the information might have to come, but I don't know, it might be comical to do something like that, but
I mean there was another video. There was a guy who, I can't remember his name, but he did a similar thing where he would basically set up slightly deceptive, things where he would like ask people, questions like, obviously going around asking American people, and it said, can you name a country that begins with U? And these people would like, be like, I don't know. And then he's talking to one young woman, and then she's like, I don't know. And she's like, how about this one? What? The United States of America? And she's like, oh no! And another thing that he does, he, right towards the end of the video, I think he dresses up in, some different clothes, and he goes up to people and introduces himself as the Prime Minister of Australia, and like asking people, to sort of like support his campaign, and said, oh, it feels so good to be recognised, and it's like, have you seen me on TV? And the people are like, yes, I've seen you on TV, even though they have no idea who he is. They just take things on this face value, and it's mind-boggling how that kind of thing works. So I think that is a really good idea to sort of just subvert the faith-based thinking.
You could say so. Microsoft has this new idea of providing all of their software and computers for free at access points. Where you could like check them out and use them, when you need them, these laptops, and what do you think of that?
Yeah. I might actually start doing something like that, actually. that sounds really interesting. So like just mold it in and subvert it.
Right, because again, those are sources of authority. Like, if Microsoft is doing it and they think, oh, really, but if you present it as a movement of something that would be completely different than today's socioeconomic system, then, that's too far out. But if you were to pose it as if this is actually being proposed by, and it's some big thing that, corporation or a politician, they might actually consider it. And the key would be to already know how they feel about it. You know,
Yeah.
you